Welcome to the 359. I'm Joni Salzman.
I'm Alfred Ing.
Amazon's Ring smart home doorbells are helping police departments build surveillance networks right from your neighbor's front doors. Police departments across the country, in major cities like Houston down to smaller towns with fewer than 30,000 people, have offered free or discounted Ring doorbells to citizens, sometimes using taxpayer funds to pay for the products. Ring owners are supposed to have the choice of providing police footage, but in some cases, the giveaways come with the stipulation that you have to turn over footage to police when requested. Alfred, talk to us about what's going on here.
Yeah, so a lot of people buy rings. They're very popular. They think that it'll help them stop, package thieves or, find somebody suspicious in your neighborhood. And you think, oh, well, if it's just facing out my doorstep, it's not really anything affecting me or my neighbors, until you realize that your neighbor across the street also has this ring, right, and it's facing your house and it can get footage of you. And just build that out to your entire neighborhood, because that's what it is for a lot of police departments now. They've been seeing that residents have Ring, so they call up Amazon and they partner with them in this program called Neighbors, which is a social media app available. It's kind of like Nextdoor, where it's just among your neighbors, and you post footage up there like, hey, look at this person stealing packages. Watch out for him. Now, when police partner with Amazon, they're allowed to request for footage directly from people. So they can, kind of put a geofence around like a block or something like that and say, hey, we've been looking for this guy. We believe he's around here. Can you send us this kind of footage? That's supposed to be optional. But the problem is in some giveaways, the requirements are there are strings attached here. Hey, like when we ask for footage, you're giving this to us. Like, that's it, because we gave you this camera for free. And essentially that's kind of setting up like an open surveillance network for a lot of police officers who were never able to get cameras in these places. When you get a security camera, that's usually for like a city or like a big area, not, on your block. And now they have it in these residential areas that they never really had surveillance footage of before.
What was the most as you were reporting out the story, what was the most shocking thing
that
stuck out to you?
The biggest thing that stuck out to me was just how much money Amazon is making off of this.
Really?
So when you have a Ring camera, you don't have to get a subscription plan for it, but it's basically you can't store any footage otherwise. You can just see like a live view, but you can't like save that video. So it's kind of useless unless you get a subscription. The cheapest one starts at $3 a month. And so in some cases, Amazon will give these cameras away for free, or they'll heavily subsidize it. Because it's kind of this model of like, we're going to sell the blade, not the razors. I don't know if it's the other way around. But so in one case where they donated about like $18,000 to one town in subsidies, it turns out that, they gave out 600 cameras in that town. They can make all that money back in less than 10 months and then just, continue to see their profits rise from that. So, it's police, like Amazon is asking police, do you want to partner with us? And then police then go to residents and say, do you want to buy this Amazon product?
Right.
It's this weird
It's all
chain.
a bunch of back scratching.
Yeah, and all the money just goes back to Amazon.
Right. We also have an interview with Sony's PlayStation CEO. Our Ian Scher interviewed the CEO and found out that the game console maker is vowing to have shared saved games, backwards compatibility, and more on its upcoming console, often referred to as the PS5 unofficially.
Yes. So, I mean, just trajectory-wise, it's probably going to be the PS5. They haven't said anything about that. But, yeah, the CEO, Jim Ryan, this is his first interview since he started in April. And he talks about how, cloud gaming is going to be the big thing. Google, with their Stadia pitch, is kind of moving toward that, too. You might be able to play more games with your friends on Xbox, and you might be able to play more games with just people on your old console. Like, you might not even have to get the new PS5 to play with your friends on that console, assuming that that's its name.
A grand feature where you don't have to buy the console to play the console.
Yeah.
Also on CNET, our own Ben Fox-Rubin has a story also about Amazon unveiling the latest class of Alexa prize competitors who will be setting out to make the conversational bots more real. For these and other stories, check out CNET.com. I'm Joni Salzman.
I'm Alfred Ing.
Thanks for listening.
Being able to test
Right.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us for a recording of yet another edition of the 359 podcast. Now is the time for you to send in your questions and comments because we want to get to know you a little bit better. What do you want to know about these stories that we're reporting on? It's only going to help us get better as journalists and tech media people. What is our title? What is your title? I don't even know anymore. But anyways, go ahead and send in your questions and comments. We'll take them. Right out the gate, let's talk to our old friend Ryan Williams. He says you really got to read the terms and conditions if you're going to get into an ecosystem like this for free. I think that's a key strategy to take to heart. He also goes on to say that I've had the Nest Hello and have had something in my neighborhood where they could contact the police and show them the footage. He says he likes being able to help, but being forced to sounds very much wrong. Alfred, I think you can shed a little light on this. It's not necessarily forcing. You still kind of volunteer into it, right?
It's basically if you want the free camera. If you don't want to spend the $99, if you don't want to spend, the $200 for it, you and you want this free camera from them, that's basically it. Like you're kind of agreeing, like, yeah, I'm gonna get this camera for free, but I'm also gonna give you my data. I mean, that's kind of how Google and Facebook also work.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit more different now because at least the police departments are a bit upfront about this.
Yeah.
But I do know that Ring does not approve of this model. They, in a statement sent to me last night, when they first learned about this, that this was going on with their own products, they mentioned that they're going to be reaching out to their partners and saying, like, look, you can give these cameras for free, but like you can't give it with any strings attached.
Right. Yeah. And it also raises the issue not only of the people that own the free Ring doorbell, but people that are just walking by in the neighborhood. You don't have the presumption that you're being monitored when you're walking around a suburban sidewalk with green lawns and stuff. Yeah.
And it's not even just walking, it's driving too. They were able to track cars in that scenario. And one police department talked about how they can combine the Ring footage with other technology that they have, like automatic license plate readers. So they can take the car, look up the make and model of it, see how many of those have traveled around their city, and right then and there they know the owner and address of like that car, all from Amazon's doorbell.
And do you know the stipulation, these kind of like requirements for the subsidized free Ring doorbells from police departments, where it is required for you to hand over footage? I mean, they don't need to go through I mean, what that does is that it subverts the idea of having to get a subpoena, right?
Yeah, basically, yeah. So there's 3 ways for them to get these videos. I mean, they can request it and then go and then they'll send it to them voluntarily. They can subpoena a Ring for the video saying, like, we need this footage. Or they can be in this kind of program where it kind of circumvents, like, civil
getting
liberties.
a judge to say, like, you have the right to actually go to this person and force them to give something to you.
Basically. And also what I found is in New Jersey, the police department there, when obviously they don't have one police department, but in the township in Bloomfield, he sent about 10 requests last week.
Yeah.
And almost like nobody responded. But then he physically shows up to the door, or another officer does, and knocks on the door and says, hey, like, we know you have a Ring camera. We're looking for footage around this area.
Right.
Can you provide this footage? Now, again, a person could just say no, get a warrant, and close the door on them. But what are you really going to do when there's a cop at your door asking you for footage on this doorbell that he now knows that you have?
Right.
People change a lot. I spoke with somebody from the ACLU, my story, who mentioned, doesn't matter how friendly you think police officers are, you change your behavior around them. Like, think about all the times that you like suddenly drive way slower or something.
I mean,
like that
I was just coming to work the other day, and there was a cop at the front of a intersection. The light turned green, the cop didn't go, and none of the cars behind him honked. Like, of course.
That's just how it is. So, I mean, that's the idea that like, they can say, oh, they can turn us down if they want to, but if they show up at your door, I think it's a much different story.
And that also assumes that the average person is savvy enough to know that that's the kind of thing that traditionally a police department needs to get a warrant to access.
Especially if they helped pay for your camera. If they were the ones that gave you that coupon for like $50 off, I feel like you're much more inclined to give them that footage.
Right. Yeah.
Big Time points out that in the Ring community, everyone just kind of shares that info freely.
Yes.
In the app. So it's like something happens and it's also just freely shared video. There's no real need to request that. So what kind of hurdles are in the way for situations like that?
That's if they post the video publicly, which a lot of people do on like the Neighbors app. Like, I want, my next door neighbor to see this because I want to tell him, hey, watch out,
Creepy guy is
is
lurking by your lawn or
or
whatever.
like I don't know, some raccoon is like stealing your pots or something like that. Like,
right.
That was me last night.
But yeah, I mean that makes sense. Like among neighbors, it's supposed to be like a neighborhood watch kind of thing.
Right.
But the difference is like police can request you for footage that is not posted publicly.
Right.
They can see the footage that's posted publicly. Like they can go on the neighbors app and look in within a neighborhood and see, oh, thanks for this tip. But if they're investigating something completely unrelated, but they know that this person might be in this area, they can ask you like, hey, do you have any video from around 5 a.m. on this date, like on this block?
Yeah.
That could be stuff that you never uploaded because it was just somebody that, just happened to walk by, but you didn't really think that much of it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between like the Ring community and the app and, when police are partnered up with it.
And the other difference is, of course, police, like you said, they have tools that your neighbor doesn't. Like your neighbor isn't going to combine getting from the public footage that's on the app. They're not going to combine that with like automatic license plate recognition. Yeah.
When it comes to them actually collecting that footage, what kind of control do you have over that? Can you send them like, okay, from like 5:55 p.m. to 7:25 p.m.
Yeah,
here's your window, or do they have like free reign?
Yeah,
like I have to tell them like skip the 4 p.m. time code because I was in my banana hammock out back.
Yeah, you would have to. You can't cut out something in the middle of it. Like you can't be like, okay, here's from 5 to 5:15, but cut out like 5:10 to 5:11 because you don't want them to see something. Like you can choose the range that you want to send them, but you can't like cut out specific clips from it.
Gotcha. That makes sense. It's nice to know that you at least have some semblance of control over that. Mm-hmm. Let's take some more questions. I want to get to Venom 5809, but first I want a little bit more clarification because Marianne is asking, so as I understand it, being compelled to hand over the footage is dependent upon having the cost of Ring subsidized. Is that true?
Not subsidized, but if you got it for free. So if you buy the camera on your own and you're using it, you don't have to turn it over to them if you don't want to. Some police departments have had that requirement for a while where it's basically if we're giving you a free camera, then you are giving us the footage if we ask for it.
But you agree to that up front.
Yes. Yeah.
That's not a hidden...
But I think the point is like that's even if it is up front, that's... The ACLU, I think, is one body that would say that's not an okay thing for the police to even ask.
Yeah, because so here's the thing, like this also circumvents a lot of how police uses technology and how they're supposed to be able to acquire it.
Right.
Usually when police wants like any kind of tech like body cameras or surveillance cameras in a neighborhood or something, they have to go to City Hall, they have to like get it approved and then get the money for it and buying it. In this scenario, instead of doing that, they partner with Ring, which is free, and they don't need city approval for that. And then they ask all these people to buy these cameras. Also, Ring gives them free cameras.
Right.
So they can just give them out for free and then use that instead of asking for money or any kind of public approval or anything like that.
Right.
It's why, like, say in San Francisco, which was the first city to ban facial recognition, that was done because of community, like advocates. That was like the community going out saying, we don't want you to have this technology. Now imagine they did the same thing with like surveillance cameras. They could kind of get around that though by saying, well, we're not buying the surveillance camera. Like average citizens are buying it.
Yeah.
And then we're asking them for the footage.
Right.
Or we're giving them free cameras and then they're giving us the footage.
Right.
For the record, I don't disagree. I mean, I totally 100% do agree that it's sketchy as hell for them. I'm just somewhat relieved that it's on Front Street. That's all I was trying to exemplify there. Okay, so let's talk to Venom 5809. He says, are you talking about Ring turning into a snitch service? I don't know if we could completely call it that, but you're not far off, I suppose. He says, I have a Ring. I've had it since the beginning, and I'm close to dumping them. I've paid for the service and have had 2 local police departments join in, and they've started hijacking the neighborhood alerts, and I don't like it. Have we heard any more reports of that?
So this person should reach out directly to Alfred.
Yeah, if you want to reach out to me, my email address is alfred.ng@cbs.com.
Putting your Twitter up right now, too.
Would love to hear about them from you. But yeah, I mean, that does happen a lot. I mean, that's another feature of police partnering with Amazon and Ring. When they get access to the app, they can send out neighborhood alerts. I mean, to be fair, I don't think they're doing this as a joke where it's like, hey, happy holidays or something.
Right.
I think when they do send these neighborhood alerts, it's kind of like, hey, there's a man with a knife in your neighborhood or something like that.
Right.
But there have been studies on neighborhood apps like these, like Ring and Nextdoor, where they found that they make residents way more paranoid about where they
Right.
live than they should be.
Right.
The idea that, you're exposed to so many more like going ons in your neighborhood that might not even be anything.
And likely would never impact you.
Yeah, like that person with a knife in your neighborhood, it's not like he's standing on one corner every day like, I'm going to stab somebody here. It's very likely that like he ran through that one day and you're never going to hear from that person again.
Yeah.
But yeah, these apps make people think that there's way more crime going on than there actually is. And that's from studies that like have looked at all these like neighborhood apps and like just seen the way that people have been like behaving because of it.
All right, digging out some more questions. This is great conversation, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your contributions. The next one's coming in from Yanhao Chen. He says, I wonder if this will eventually apply to other cameras like Nest or Arlo. He goes on to say, I feel that this isn't a particularly healthy trend. Imagine if they start collecting your voice data as well, like when they use with Alexa and transcribing those type of things. Do we see that danger on the horizon?
Yeah, with voice data, it's a little bit different because it's not really a police partnership stuff, but
Yeah.
police have subpoenaed Amazon for voice data in murder cases. Not so much yet for Google, but that's only because they don't so Google does a transparency report every year where they talk about how many police requests they've gotten, but they never split it up into like, oh, we got this for Gmail and we got this for YouTube and we got this for
Right.
whatever for
Right.
Google like Assistant. But yeah, Alexa, I'm sorry if I activated your devices, but it has been subpoenaed before for voice data for crime investigations. And yeah, for something like this coming to Nest and Arlo, that might be on its way, but I will say this is that like Ring has such a dominant hold on this that like so many police departments are already partnered with Ring that Nest and Arlo might not have that opportunity to do it, and it could all be done through Ring. I just also wanted to add, I forgot to mention in the last point that I was making about these apps making you more paranoid, there was some controversy last month or so about Ring hiring a crime news editor.
Right. I remember that.
Yeah, so they wanted somebody on staff to find all the crime going on in people's neighborhoods and just blasting it out, like to be able to say, hey, like this neighborhood is dangerous, because the more you believe that you're in danger, the more likely you're going to want to spend $200 on this
Right.
doorbell looking out for somebody like on your doorsteps.
Right. Right.
Propaganda 101. Hey, before we go any further, Malamase is stating, it's hard for me to listen to you guys referring to the police department as one entity. Now, which police department are we referring to? What area? What municipality? Alfred, you actually did a great job walking me through this earlier. I'd like to bring up that heat map you were citing as part of. Could you maybe walk us through this specific study that you've been working on?
Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, obviously every police department does it differently. Houston is the one that does it with kind of this deal. There are other police departments that do subsidized programs. Hammond, Indiana, spent $18,000 on it, and Amazon matched the other half. But this heat map is in Bloomfield, New Jersey. It's a town in northeastern New Jersey, I believe, near in Essex County. That is the entire town. That it's hard to see on the screen, but there's like little blue lines around that heat map. Then those blue lines basically represent the entire town of about 50,000 people.
And the red portion is what they have covered by
where
camera.
the more red it is, the more cameras there are.
Right. Gotcha.
So yeah, this town is basically covered in cameras. Like the areas
Thanks, Ring.
the areas where there might not be would be like a golf course or something like that, or somewhere in the highway. But
Right.
other than that, yeah, this whole community has a bunch of Ring cameras. Other cities will offer like rewards, like they'll give you. There was this town in California. I'm trying to find it now, where El Monte, in Southern California, they had a post on their Facebook page saying, we have these free Ring cameras to give out. We'll give them to you if you give us crime tips. Like, we'll give you a free camera if you give us a tip on something, not, continue giving us crime tips.
Right.
But still, like,
It's so weird.
it's just this whole thing. And then another town in Virginia, they got 15 free cameras, and they're being a lot more strategic about who they're handing them out to.
Yeah.
They mentioned like, oh, we just got them last month, but we haven't handed them out yet because we want to work with our crime analysis unit to
Right.
find out which neighborhoods we should put them in.
Right.
Which clearly means that, there's a strategy around like
There's a crime fighting strategy rather than just general public safety
yeah,
for your
it's
citizens.
not we're giving this out because we want to help out. It's like
Right.
we're giving this out because we need a camera here, here, and here.
Right. Right.
We got a few minutes left, so let's take a couple more questions. Ryan asks, I got a free Nest thermostat from the Ontario government where they collect my data. Do you see more types of giveaways like this by the governments or other municipalities to help with data collection?
So when I mentioned my story to another reporter here, he mentioned something about that, but not from the government, more so from electric companies, like the Nest thermostat stuff, because that's one of those things where like it helps you lower your insurance rate. Not insurance, I'm sorry. That was the next topic I want to go on, but it helps you lower your electric bill because they
Right.
can monitor it that way.
Right.
On insurance rates, though, there are certain health insurance companies that give out free Fitbits because they think, if you live a healthy lifestyle, like we'll help lower your insurance rate. But they're also collecting all this data on you.
Right.
And at the same time, if you don't live a healthy lifestyle, they know like from
Yeah.
the Fitbit on your wrist, and they'll just say, hey, we're raising your insurance rate. How come you haven't been taking 10,000 steps a day?
Right.
Because they can track that now.
Right. Yeah.
Bizarre thought. All right, a couple more questions from Timothy. Will we foresee a centralized community for all surveillance rings, or is this truly just an issue of singular community privacy?
For now, this is all singular community stuff. If your police department isn't really partnered with Ring, then that doesn't happen. Also, some neighborhoods just might not have Ring, or there are surveillance cameras everywhere already to begin with. Like in New York City, there are neighborhoods that do just have surveillance cameras, even though they're residential areas. But to be fair, New York City also has the largest police department in the country, so they have way more funding than a town with 30,000 people or so.
Yeah.
From Marianne again. My next question is: in this tech age, how easy is it exactly for law enforcement to obtain a subpoena for Ring footage?
I think it depends on the case, right? Like subpoenas obviously are a case by case basis. I've never applied for a warrant, so I don't know the simplicity of it. But yeah, there are. I think that's why something like this with Ring, they don't have to do like a subpoena to get this kind of footage.
Yeah.
From Timothy again. Here we're getting a little off the beaten path, but that's good. That's good. Do you foresee Ring cameras on cars anytime in the near future?
I mean,
It's against the use case of that product
yeah.
particularly.
I mean, also there are dashboard cams.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Amazon will be making their own dashboard cam, but there are obviously a lot of cameras on cars to begin with for like
Yeah.
accident reports and things like that.
And as cars become more automated, as self-driving cars become, if and when they become more the norm, I mean, they have to have a lot of
Yeah.
sensors, including cameras, built into them, which raises some other complications for privacy.
Okay, we are just about out of time, but Yan's got a bit of an off-topic question, so let's try to floor this real quick since we did talk briefly about gaming. Any more info on the status of Stadia versus traditional consoles?
No, it's
Yeah,
weird because
I know.
Google does this like whole big thing.
Right.
And then they didn't even talk about it at I.O.
Right, but E3 is coming up
Yeah.
next week. And so if you don't know, E3 is the gigantic video game conference every year. I believe that Google has a presser. I think. I'm not sure. I can check really quickly. But I believe that Google might have a presence at E3 this time. And even if it doesn't have a dedicated press conference or panel going on, I'm sure that that's going to be, if they're going to be releasing any information in the near term.
Yeah, they have an event on June 6th.
See, so
yeah.
June 6th is probably where we're gonna hear a lot more about Stadia.
Which is tomorrow. So.
Oh, hey, tomorrow! Tune in to the 3:59 tomorrow, and maybe we can talk about it.
I think maybe we should get Bacalar back on the show and
Yeah.
get him to give us a little bit of a breakdown. Maybe we wait till after E3 and get him to do a
I don't think our show would be on like after
Yeah.
the announcements anyway.
Sure,
like, I
sure.
think,
They're going to roll through that because that's out on the West Coast anyways,
Yeah.
and we're in New York.
And E3
so.
lasts a long time. Like I know I'm going to be covering Netflix is going to have their first panel at E3, and that's not until Wednesday of next week. So it's going to be. It sounds like Google. The peak of Google news will probably be tomorrow, and then there's going to be Netflix video game news on Wednesday for among all the traditional other video game developers and makers.
Do you think that they're actually making games though, or is it more about shows based on
So
games?
this isn't based on anything that anyone's told me on the record, but my just gut gut instinct about it is that Netflix has said, what is public is Netflix has said that this is primarily about adapting other developers adapting their franchises like Stranger Things into video games.
Oh, okay. Because they're making The Witcher, aren't they?
I don't know.
Netflix is
They
making
are.
The Witcher, and they have already actually made a Stranger Things game. It's a mobile app,
Right.
a RPG type game. It's not bad.
I think that if Netflix itself is going to be getting into on its own platform any gaming things, it'll mostly be based on the sort of built-in A versus B branching storyline system that they already have set up, like you saw in Black Mirror Bandersnatch late last year. I doubt, from the sources that I've talked to, I really doubt that Netflix is interested at this point in having gaming engine-based games on the Netflix platform. But we could always be surprised.
All right, we talked about gaming on the show.
Hey.
We did it. Yeah, I think we should get Bacalar back on. I might have to bribe him, but a couple of bucks ought to do the trick. We'll get Bacalar on back after the E3 and see if he can...
He should be begging to get back on the 359.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's not
Forget
going to do
about
that.
bribery.
All right, thanks, everybody. We made great time today. Really covered a lot of ground. Fascinating topic. Alfred, thank you for bringing that to the table. Joan, always lovely to have you. Thanks, folks. We'll see you again tomorrow. Who wants to take us on out?
I can do it. The 359 is available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, FeedBurner, Google Play, Google Podcasts, the Amazon Echo, and CNET.com.
Take care, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.
Are you?